cafe was small, quiet, and smelled faintly of fresh coffee and baked bread. The CEO, wearing a crisp gray suit, walked in and ordered a table near the window. He liked to watch the city move while he ate. The day had been long, filled with meetings, phone calls, and endless decisions. For once, he wanted a simple lunch, away from the chaos of his office and the weight of responsibilities that followed him everywhere. The waitress approached with a warm smile. She was young but carried herself with calm confidence. She greeted him politely and asked for his order. Something about her face seemed familiar, though he couldn't place it at first. He noticed the gentle way she moved, carefully setting the utensils and making sure the table was clean. There was a softness in her eyes that caught his attention, something rare in people he usually met in business circles. As she took his order and walked away, he tried to shake off the feeling. He had a busy mind, and these little distractions were unusual for him. He focused on the view outside the window, watching people hurry by, cars honking, and the city moving at its relentless pace. But every so often, he found himself glancing at her, trying to understand why she seemed so familiar. Emily moved through the cafe with quiet efficiency. She served tables with a friendly word or a small joke, making the customers smile without even trying too hard. Her attention was genuine, not forced, and it made the place feel warm. She didn't notice the man staring at her from the corner, lost in thought. To her, he was just another customer, someone who wanted a simple meal and a brief moment of calm in the middle of a busy day. The CEO took a bite of his sandwich and suddenly felt a wave of memories hit him. He remembered a nursing home from years ago, a place where his father had spent the last months of his life. His father had been proud, stubborn, and sometimes difficult, but he had also been kind and loving in his own quiet way. The memory of the nursing home brought a pang of sadness, mixed with a strange warmth. He remembered the caregivers, the nurses, and especially one young woman who had gone out of her way to make his father comfortable. He had not thought about her for years, but suddenly, the connection hit him like a wave. He couldn't see her clearly at first, but something about the waitress, her eyes, her gentle smile, the way she moved, reminded him of that woman who had cared for his father. He tried to push the thought away, telling himself it was impossible, but the feeling lingered. Emily returned with his drink, placing it carefully on the table. "Here you go," she said with a smile. "Is there anything else you need?" Her voice was calm and pleasant, making him pause. He looked up at her and felt a strange pull, a mix of recognition and curiosity. He wanted to ask, but he wasn't sure if he should. Maybe it was just his imagination, but the feeling was too strong to ignore. He decided to test it gently. "Did you ever work at a nursing home?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Emily's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. She nodded. "Yes, a few years ago. Why do you ask?" The CEO hesitated, then asked another question, more carefully this time. "Do you remember a man? Older, proud, and a bit stubborn, who stayed there?" He wasn't sure how to describe his father without giving too much away. Emily's expression changed. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "Yes, I remember him. He was kind in his own way, and he had moments that stayed with me." "Why do you ask?" The CEO felt a lump in his throat. The details she remembered, the care she had given, all of it came rushing back. He realized that this waitress was indeed the woman who had spent time with his father, comforting him when he was in pain, talking to him when he was lonely, and treating him with dignity and respect when no one else had the time. He felt a wave of gratitude mixed with guilt. He had been so busy with work, so focused on his own life, that he had taken for granted the people who cared for his father. And here she was, in front of him, still kind, still dedicated, and still carrying that same warmth. Emily seemed to sense his emotions, though she didn't comment. She had a quiet strength, a way of being present without demanding attention. She moved around the cafe, checking on other customers, but he couldn't take his eyes off her. Every gesture reminded him of the care she had shown years ago, the patience she had, and the love she had given, not because she had to, but because she genuinely wanted to. The CEO finished his meal slowly, savoring the taste but also taking in the moment. He realized that this was not just a simple lunch anymore. It was an unexpected reunion, a chance to connect with someone who had made a difference in his life without even knowing it. He decided that he needed to speak with her more, to understand her story, and to express the gratitude he had held in his heart for so long. He called her over once more, this time with a gentle urgency. "I think you knew my father," he said softly. "I can't explain why, but I feel like you made a big difference in his life. Could we talk?" Emily paused, looking at him with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. She nodded. "Yes, we can talk. I remember your father. He was special. And I remember some things that I think you should know." Her voice was calm, but there was a seriousness in her tone that made the CEO lean in, eager to hear what she had to say. As they sat together, the cafe buzzing quietly around them, the CEO felt a mix of anticipation and trepidation. He didn't know what Emily would reveal, but he knew that whatever it was, it would change how he remembered his father, and perhaps even change him. He listened carefully as she began to share stories, small moments that he had never known, and the quiet, profound impact she had had on his father's final days. Each story brought tears to his eyes, but also a deep sense of peace. He realized that the love and care his father had received were not just acts of duty. They were acts of genuine kindness and compassion. And he understood, in that moment, that some people come into our lives to remind us of what truly matters. The CEO left the cafe that day with a heart heavier than when he had arrived, but also lighter in ways he hadn't expected. He carried with him the memory of Emily, the waitress who had tended to his father, and the realization that true kindness often comes from those we least expect. The encounter would stay with him forever, shaping how he saw the world and the people in it, and reminding him that some connections are timeless, transcending years, roles, and even status. As he walked back to his car, he glanced over his shoulder at Emily, who was now serving another table with the same calm warmth. He felt a silent gratitude, a recognition of the quiet heroism that exists in everyday people. And he knew, without a doubt, that this meeting was only the beginning of a story that would change both of their lives forever. After that unexpected meeting in the cafe, the CEO couldn't stop thinking about Emily and the stories she had begun to share. The memories of his father came back more vividly than ever, filling him with emotions he had long buried. He remembered the nursing home halls, the quiet rooms, and the faint smell of antiseptic mixed with flowers. He remembered the quiet ticking of clocks and the occasional laughter or sighs of residents. And he remembered the young caregiver who had made it all bearable, who had given care where he himself had been too busy to provide it. Emily began recounting details of the nursing home days. She told him about the mornings, when she would wake the residents with gentle words and soft touches. She spoke of the patience required, the little things that often went unnoticed but mattered greatly. She told him about his father's stubbornness, how he would refuse medicine sometimes, how he would get frustrated with small inconveniences, and yet how he could still smile when someone treated him with respect. She described his father as a proud man who rarely showed vulnerability but had moments that were deeply touching when he let his guard down. As she spoke, the CEO could almost see it all in his mind. He remembered walking through the nursing home corridors years ago, seeing his father lying in bed, frail but dignified. He remembered feeling helpless, knowing he could not be there as much as he wanted. Now, listening to Emily, he realized she had been there in his place, offering comfort, listening, and making sure his father's last days were peaceful and meaningful. The thought made his chest tighten with both gratitude and regret. Emily shared small but significant moments. She told him how she would read letters from families who couldn't visit often, how she would help residents write notes or organize small events to make them feel part of something. She spoke of quiet nights when a resident might be scared or lonely, and how she would sit by their side, talking softly or simply holding their hand. She told him that his father, despite his proud exterior, often looked forward to these small moments of attention and care. It was something she had witnessed and remembered because it had mattered so much. The CEO listened intently, absorbing every detail. He was struck by the fact that someone who seemed so ordinary at first glance had actually been extraordinary in ways he had never imagined. Emily had dedicated herself not for recognition or reward, but because it was the right thing to do. Her work had been a quiet heroism, and he now realized how much it had meant to his father, and how much it still meant to him. Emily paused for a moment, taking a sip of water. She looked out the cafe window and then back at him, her expression thoughtful. She began to share stories that were both touching and profound. She told him about a day when his father had been particularly weak, refusing to eat or speak much. Most staff might have considered it a difficult day, but Emily had stayed, sitting beside him, talking to him about memories he cherished, humming tunes he liked, and even helping him paint a small picture that he insisted must be perfect. The CEO felt a lump in his throat as he imagined the scene, realizing that the love shown in those moments was something he had overlooked in his own grief. She went on to reveal that his father had once confided in her something he hadn't shared with anyone else. It was a small but meaningful confession about his regrets and wishes for his family. Emily had kept it safe, not to betray trust, but to remember the man she had come to respect deeply. She explained that this memory had stayed with her because it was a rare glimpse into the heart of a man who otherwise kept his feelings hidden. The CEO's eyes glistened as he realized he was hearing things his father had never told him directly. As the conversation continued, the CEO felt a mixture of emotions. Sorrow for the moments he had missed, gratitude for Emily's care, and a deep sense of understanding about the kind of person his father truly was. He began to appreciate the depth of Emily's work, the effort, and the empathy she had poured into every day at the nursing home. It was clear to him that her presence had transformed his father's final months into something dignified and loving. Emily also shared the lighter, more human side of those days. She spoke of laughter that echoed in the corridors when residents shared jokes, the small celebrations for birthdays, and the little competitions and games that brought smiles to everyone's faces. She described the warmth and bonds that formed between staff and residents, how each small act of kindness created ripples that could be felt long after the moment passed. Hearing this, the CEO felt a sense of peace. Despite the sadness of his father's passing, these stories reminded him that life, even in its final stages, could still be filled with beauty, joy, and human connection. The CEO asked questions gently, wanting to know more, to understand every detail of his father's last days. He wanted to know how his father had spent his mornings, what he liked to talk about, and how he reacted to the care Emily had provided. Each answer painted a vivid picture, showing him a side of his father he had rarely seen. It was a side filled with trust, reliance, and appreciation for those who had been there when he could not. Emily's words had a profound effect on him. He realized that true care is often invisible to the world, unnoticed by many, but its shapes lives in ways that matter the most. Her dedication had created a lasting impact not just on his father, but now on him as well. He felt a growing respect for her, recognizing that her work went beyond the ordinary tasks of a job. It had been a calling, a commitment to human dignity. The cafe around them seemed to fade as they delved deeper into memories and stories. The CEO could feel the weight of years, the moments lost, and the moments preserved by someone who had cared enough to stay present. He understood that some acts of kindness leave a mark that time cannot erase, and that Emily's presence had been a quiet force of good in a time of vulnerability and need. Emily's voice carried a calm authority, yet it was filled with empathy. She spoke of challenges too, days when it was hard to remain patient, when illness, fatigue, or bureaucracy threatened to overwhelm the care she wanted to give. But she never stopped, never let her commitment falter. Her honesty about those struggles made her dedication even more admirable. The CEO felt humbled by her strength, realizing that such resilience often goes unseen, yet it shapes lives in profound ways. As their conversation drew to a pause, the CEO took a moment to collect his thoughts. He felt a sense of closure, yet also a new beginning. Listening to Emily had opened a window into the past, revealing not only what his father had experienced, but also the unseen contributions of those who had cared for him. He felt inspired to acknowledge and honor that care, to express gratitude that he had not had the chance to give before. Emily smiled softly, sensing his emotions. She had shared her stories, her memories, and her perspective, but she did so without expecting anything in return. Her humility and sincerity were striking, and the CEO knew that meeting her again had been more than a coincidence. It was a moment that would guide him in how he approached relationships, gratitude, and empathy in his own life. The CEO left the cafe that day with a heart full of reflection. He had learned about his father's last days in a way he never could have imagined. He had discovered the depth of care and compassion that Emily had shown, and he felt a responsibility to honor that in his own way. The encounter had reminded him that behind every story, there are quiet heroes whose actions matter far beyond what is visible. And he understood, more clearly than ever, that kindness, empathy, and presence are the most valuable gifts one can offer. Walking back through the busy streets, he felt a mix of emotions: sadness, gratitude, and hope. Sadness for the time lost, gratitude for the care given, and hope that he could carry forward the lessons he had learned. He thought about his father, about Emily, and about the countless small acts of kindness that go unnoticed each day. And he knew that from now on, he would look for those acts, honor them, and perhaps, in his own way, become part of that quiet chain of care and compassion that shapes lives in ways no one forgets. The following days, the CEO couldn't stop thinking about Emily and what she had revealed. He replayed every word in his mind, trying to imagine the scenes she described. He found himself returning to the cafe, hoping to see her again, to continue the conversation, to understand more. It wasn't just curiosity. It was a deep need to connect with someone who had touched his father's life in such a meaningful way. When he arrived at the cafe that morning, Emily was already there, setting up tables and greeting early customers. She looked up, smiled warmly, and approached him. "Good morning," she said, her voice calm and friendly. The CEO returned the smile, feeling a sense of relief and anticipation. He knew that today, they would go deeper, uncover more of the story that had been left unspoken for years. They sat together, the noise of the cafe fading into the background as Emily began to share more. She spoke of the struggles her job at the nursing home entailed, the long hours, the emotional challenges, and the moments when she felt she might not be able to continue. Yet, despite everything, she stayed, driven by a sense of responsibility and compassion. She told him how she had learned to read people, to understand their needs even when they couldn't speak, and to find joy in the smallest victories, like a smile or a shared memory. The CEO listened intently, absorbing every detail. He realized that her work had been far more than a job. It had been a vocation. Each action she had taken, each moment of care, had been intentional and meaningful. He felt a profound respect for her, recognizing that her dedication had provided comfort and dignity to his father during the most vulnerable time of his life. Emily then shared a story that made the CEO lean in closer. She described a day when his father had been particularly withdrawn, refusing to speak or eat. Most caregivers might have followed protocol, given him his meals and left him alone, but she had chosen a different approach. She had spent hours sitting beside him, talking softly, reminding him of past joys, and gently encouraging him to participate in small activities. By the end of the day, he had smiled, laughed, and even written a short note that Emily had carefully saved. This simple act of care, she explained, had meant more to him than anyone realized. The CEO felt a lump in his throat. He remembered those same moments, though from a distance, and the guilt of not being there weighed heavily on him. He realized that Emily had been a bridge between him and his father, filling in the gaps that he could not. Her compassion had allowed his father to feel loved, valued, and understood, even when his own family was absent. Emily's stories were filled with small, vivid details. She talked about the way his father would light up when she brought him a cup of tea at the exact time he liked it, or how he would hum old songs from his youth, sometimes forgetting the world around him. She recalled how he enjoyed small walks in the garden, how he would comment on the flowers and birds, and how those moments of peace were priceless. The CEO could almost see it all, the gentle sunlight filtering through the windows, the soft rustle of leaves outside, and the quiet laughter of a man finally at ease. As they talked, Emily revealed more personal insights. She had kept a small journal during her time at the nursing home, noting down stories, memorable moments, and even little confessions from the residents. She explained that it wasn't for anyone else's eyes but her own, a way to remember the people she had cared for and the lives she had touched. When the CEO asked if his father had been part of that journal, she nodded. He felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety, eager to hear what had been recorded. Emily hesitated for a moment, then shared a passage from her journal. It described a day when his father had been unusually reflective, talking about regrets and unspoken wishes. She had listened without judgment, offering comfort and understanding. He had shared thoughts he hadn't expressed to anyone else, feelings of pride, worry, and love for his family. The CEO felt tears well up in his eyes. These were words he had never heard directly from his father, and now, through Emily's memory, they reached him in a profound way. She went on to explain how these moments had shaped her understanding of human connection. She had learned that care was not just about meeting physical needs but about listening, being present, and valuing the individual's dignity. The CEO was struck by the depth of her insight, realizing that her experiences had given her a wisdom far beyond her years. As the conversation continued, the CEO began to share his own reflections. He spoke of his father's personality, his pride, and the moments of distance that had sometimes made their relationship challenging. Emily listened attentively, nodding, offering gentle feedback without interrupting. She understood the nuances of family, the complexities of relationships, and the importance of empathy. Her presence was reassuring, and the CEO found himself opening up in ways he rarely did with anyone. Emily then shared a story that left the CEO both amazed and humbled. She described how, on his father's last birthday, she had organized a small celebration in his room. It was simple but heartfelt, with decorations, a homemade cake, and a few close friends from the nursing home. His father had been touched, smiling more than he had in months. Emily had gone out of her way to ensure the day was special, despite her own exhaustion and limited resources. The CEO realized that this act of kindness had created one of his father's happiest memories in his final days. The CEO felt a deep sense of gratitude. He realized that Emily's actions had been far more impactful than anything he could have done from a distance. Her dedication had filled voids, eased pain, and provided moments of joy and comfort that would be remembered forever. He understood that true care often goes unnoticed, yet its effects ripple through lives in ways that cannot be measured. Emily's tone shifted slightly as she spoke of the more difficult moments. She described nights when residents were restless or in pain, when she had to make tough decisions about how best to provide comfort. She spoke of her fears, the weight of responsibility, and the emotional toll it took. Yet she never complained. Instead, she focused on the importance of being there, of staying present, and of making choices that honored the humanity of each individual. The CEO admired her strength, recognizing that such resilience was rare and valuable. The cafe around them seemed to disappear as they delved deeper into memories and reflections. The CEO felt a growing connection with Emily, not just as the woman who had cared for his father, but as someone who had insights into life, empathy, and human dignity that he had rarely encountered. He realized that meeting her again had been more than coincidence. It was a moment that would change how he viewed relationships, responsibility, and compassion. Emily then revealed a small secret she had kept for years. She had preserved a few personal items and notes that his father had entrusted to her, believing that one day, they would reach someone who truly mattered. She handed him a carefully wrapped bundle. The CEO opened it, finding letters, drawings, and small mementos that held deep emotional significance. He felt a mixture of awe, sadness, and profound gratitude. These items were a tangible connection to his father, preserved by someone who had cared deeply and selflessly. The CEO sat quietly for a long moment, absorbing the weight of what Emily had shared. He felt humbled, recognizing that her compassion had provided comfort, dignity, and love in ways he could never fully repay. He understood that some people come into our lives not to seek recognition, but to offer the quiet, enduring gift of care. Emily was one of those rare individuals, and her actions had left an indelible mark on his father's life and now on his own. As they concluded their conversation, the CEO felt a sense of closure mixed with anticipation. He knew there was more to learn, more stories to hear, and perhaps more ways to honor Emily's dedication. But for now, he was grateful for the opportunity to understand, reflect, and connect. He left the cafe that day with a renewed sense of purpose, a deeper appreciation for the people who quietly make a difference, and a heart full of memories that would guide him in the days to come. Walking through the streets, he thought about how much of life's beauty is found in the quiet acts of care, the small gestures that go unnoticed by most but are cherished by those who receive them. He realized that Emily's presence in his father's life had been a blessing, a reminder that kindness, empathy, and dedication leave lasting legacies. And he knew that he would carry the lessons she had shared, honoring both his father and the woman who had devoted herself to caring for him in his final days. The cafe had grown quiet by the afternoon. The low hum of conversations and the clinking of cups faded into the background as the CEO and Emily continued their discussion. The CEO felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. He knew that what Emily was about to reveal could change everything he thought he knew about his father's final days, and possibly about himself. Emily took a deep breath and began. She told him that there were moments she had witnessed that no one else knew about, moments that had revealed the depth of his father's character and the life he had lived beyond what family members could see. She explained that his father had shared secrets, thoughts, and fears that he had never spoken to anyone else. These were not just small confessions. They were reflections that revealed a side of him the CEO had never imagined. The CEO leaned in, his hands clasped together on the table, heart pounding. Emily recounted a day when his father had asked her to sit quietly with him. He had spoken of regrets, choices he had made, and words he wished he had spoken to loved ones. Emily had listened, offering comfort without judgment. She had promised to remember, to honor the trust his father had placed in her, and to carry those words forward. The CEO felt a lump in his throat, realizing that this had been kept private all these years. She went on to describe a small box that his father had entrusted to her before his passing. In it were letters, photographs, and notes, personal thoughts that he had never shared with anyone. He had asked Emily to keep them safe, telling her that one day, they would find their way to someone who needed to hear them. Emily had kept the box hidden, waiting for the right moment. That moment, she said, was now. The CEO felt his hands tremble slightly as Emily placed the box in front of him. He opened it carefully, unfolding letters and looking at photographs that had been preserved with care. Each piece told a story, memories of joy, pain, love, and regret. Some were humorous, capturing small moments of laughter and mischief. Others were more serious, expressing emotions and thoughts that had never been voiced. The CEO's eyes filled with tears as he read, realizing the depth of his father's life and the trust he had placed in Emily. Emily explained that these notes were not just personal. They contained reflections meant to guide and comfort the family. His father had hoped that by sharing them, even indirectly, he could offer lessons, closure, and understanding. The CEO felt a wave of gratitude and humility. He understood that his father had trusted Emily in a way he had never been able to, and that her care had gone far beyond the physical needs of his father. She shared one letter in particular that struck the CEO deeply. In it, his father spoke of love, forgiveness, and the importance of human connection. He expressed pride in his family, sadness for missed opportunities, and hope that they would understand the choices he had made. Reading these words, the CEO felt as if he was hearing his father's voice for the first time, words that had been carefully preserved and passed on with love. Emily paused, giving the CEO a moment to absorb the impact. She reminded him that his father's final days had been filled with dignity and respect because of the care she had provided. She had witnessed moments of vulnerability and strength, moments of laughter and reflection, and moments that would remain etched in her memory forever. Her dedication had ensured that his father's life ended with peace and meaning. The CEO felt a profound mix of emotions: gratitude, sorrow, and a sense of responsibility. He realized that Emily's actions had given his father a gift that he, despite all his wealth and resources, could not provide alone. She had been a bridge between the father he knew and the man his father had become in his final days. The CEO felt compelled to honor her dedication, to recognize her selflessness, and to carry forward the lessons he had learned. Emily shared more intimate stories, moments that captured the essence of his father's character. She spoke of evenings when he would reminisce about his youth, sharing stories of love, friendship, and adventure. She described his quiet acts of kindness, the small ways he had touched the lives of others, and the humor that had sometimes surfaced despite illness. These accounts painted a fuller picture, revealing a man who was complex, loving, and deeply human. The CEO listened, captivated by the vivid details. He realized that his father's life had been richer and more nuanced than he had ever understood. Emily's recollections brought clarity and closure, helping him reconcile the image of his father with the man who had faced the end of life with courage and grace. The CEO felt a sense of peace, knowing that his father's legacy was preserved not just in memories, but in the compassionate actions of someone who had cared deeply. Emily then shared the final piece of the revelation. She explained that his father had entrusted her with a message for the CEO, words he had hoped would guide him in life. It was not a simple note, but a heartfelt letter expressing love, pride, and wisdom. The letter spoke of cherishing relationships, valuing empathy over status, and understanding that true strength comes from kindness and connection. The CEO read the letter slowly, savoring each word, feeling as if his father was speaking directly to him from beyond. Tears rolled down the CEO's cheeks as he absorbed the message. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, a desire to live with greater compassion, and a commitment to honor the care his father had received. He realized that Emily's dedication had not only impacted his father's life, but had also transformed his own perspective, teaching him lessons that money and power could never provide. Emily watched quietly, her expression calm and gentle. She had shared her stories, preserved memories, and delivered the message with humility and grace. She had acted out of love and duty, expecting nothing in return. The CEO felt a deep sense of gratitude, understanding that her actions were a rare and precious gift. He knew that this encounter would shape him forever. As the conversation concluded, the CEO felt a profound sense of closure. He had learned about his father's life in ways he never could have imagined, understood the depth of Emily's care, and received a message that would guide him in the years to come. He left the cafe with a heart full of reflection, carrying not only memories but also lessons about compassion, empathy, and the enduring impact of kindness. Walking through the bustling streets, he thought about how many quiet heroes exist in the world, people who dedicate themselves to others without seeking recognition. He felt a renewed commitment to honor such individuals, to recognize their efforts, and to ensure that the legacy of care and compassion continues. The CEO knew that he would never forget Emily, the waitress who had tended to his father, and the profound difference she had made in both their lives. The revelation left him humbled and inspired. He understood that life's true value lies in the connections we make, the care we give, and the love we share. Emily had reminded him of the power of empathy, the importance of presence, and the lasting impact of selfless actions. Her stories, preserved memories, and the heartfelt message from his father would guide him forever, shaping the way he lived, loved, and remembered. The CEO left the cafe that day with a mixture of emotions. Gratitude, sorrow, and a renewed sense of purpose mingled inside him as he walked through the bustling city streets. The memory of Emily, the waitress who had once cared for his father, stayed with him like a soft echo, reminding him of lessons long overlooked. He realized that life's most meaningful moments were often invisible, quietly shaping the world in ways that wealth and power could not touch. He thought about his father, imagining the days in the nursing home. He pictured the gentle light filtering through the windows, the quiet hum of life in the halls, and the moments of laughter and connection that Emily had shared. He understood now that the man he had lost had been surrounded by care and dignity, thanks to someone whose work went unnoticed by most. The CEO felt a deep sense of humility, recognizing that his father's comfort and peace had come not from material wealth, but from empathy, presence, and compassion. Over the next few days, he returned to the cafe multiple times, seeking Emily's company not just to learn more, but to honor her dedication. Each visit deepened his understanding of her character. She spoke of her life simply and honestly, never boasting, never exaggerating, but revealing a depth of insight that left him in awe. He learned about the small ways she continued to care for others, whether it was checking on elderly neighbors, helping struggling friends, or offering comfort to those who were lonely. Her life was a testament to the quiet heroism of everyday acts. One afternoon, as they sat together, Emily told him about a new resident at the nursing home, someone who reminded her of the challenges his father had faced. She described the patience it took to help this person feel safe, the small victories that brought smiles, and the satisfaction of seeing dignity restored. The CEO listened intently, realizing that the lessons of empathy and care extended far beyond his father's story. They applied to all of life, to every human interaction, and to the way he wanted to live moving forward. He began reflecting on his own life. How often had he been too busy to notice the quiet struggles of those around him? How many moments had he missed, chasing wealth, recognition, and success? Emily's example made him confront these truths. He realized that true leadership and fulfillment came not from titles or money, but from empathy, presence, and meaningful connection. The memory of his father's trust in Emily inspired him to embrace this understanding fully. Emily shared one final story that moved the CEO deeply. She described a moment when his father had reached a point of deep vulnerability, feeling both fear and acceptance about the end of life. He had confided in Emily, asking her to remember him kindly, to share his love, and to carry forward his hope for his family. She had honored that trust, safeguarding his words and memories until the right moment arrived. This revelation left the CEO speechless, filled with awe and gratitude. He understood that Emily's care had been an enduring gift. It had bridged gaps that money and influence could never fill, providing comfort, love, and dignity. He realized that some people are rare lights in the world, offering guidance, kindness, and unwavering support when it is needed most. Emily was one of those people, and the CEO knew that he would never forget the impact she had made. In the days that followed, the CEO began to make subtle changes in his own life. He reached out to employees, colleagues, and family members with more empathy. He offered recognition where it was due, not just for performance but for character and dedication. He found himself listening more, observing more, and valuing the quiet acts of kindness that often went unnoticed. Emily's example had become a standard he wanted to live by, a way to honor both his father and the care that had been shown to him. One morning, he invited Emily to accompany him to the nursing home. Together they walked through the familiar halls, revisiting the rooms where his father had spent his final days. The CEO saw the same warmth and compassion in Emily as he had years ago, now magnified by experience and devotion. Residents recognized her, greeting her with smiles and gratitude, some recalling her care with stories of their own. It was clear that her impact extended far beyond his father. She had touched many lives in profound ways. Emily showed him small details that he had never noticed before. The way residents responded to certain routines, the personal touches she had left behind, the ways she had created comfort and joy. The CEO felt both awe and humility, realizing how much of life's meaning comes from small, thoughtful acts that we often overlook. Each story, each smile, and each gentle touch reminded him that love and care are the true measures of a life well lived. As they left the nursing home, the CEO reflected on the journey they had shared over the past weeks. He thought about his father, about the lessons preserved in Emily's stories, and about the way this experience had reshaped his understanding of life. He felt a deep sense of responsibility to carry forward these lessons, to recognize and honor the quiet heroes around him, and to live with greater compassion and presence. Emily, with her gentle smile, reminded him that the impact of kindness is often far-reaching. She spoke of hope, of resilience, and of the human spirit that perseveres through care and empathy. The CEO realized that his father's legacy was intertwined with hers, that the love and attention she had offered had extended the reach of his father's life and meaning. In the weeks and months that followed, the The CEO made a conscious effort to integrate these lessons into his daily life. He reached out to family, revisited neglected relationships, and dedicated time to supporting others, both personally and professionally. He shared Emily's story when appropriate, recognizing her as an example of quiet courage and selfless care. The lessons of empathy, dedication, and human connection became central to his life, shaping decisions, interactions, and priorities. Through it all, Emily remained a steady presence, a reminder that ordinary people can create extraordinary change through consistent, thoughtful care. She continued her work at the cafe and in her community, touching lives with small acts of kindness, each moment creating ripples of impact. The CEO often reflected on the profound effect of her presence in his life, and in the life of his father, realizing that gratitude and acknowledgement are essential parts of preserving meaningful legacies. The story of the CEO, his father, and Emily stands as a testament to the power of care, empathy, and connection. It demonstrates that even the smallest actions can leave lasting impressions, shaping lives in ways we may never fully understand. The CEO carried these lessons with him, honoring the past while building a future guided by compassion, understanding, and a commitment to human dignity. Ultimately, he understood that the greatest legacies are not measured in wealth or success, but in the love, care, and attention we give to others. Emily had shown him the value of presence, the importance of listening, and the impact of empathy. Her actions had transformed his father's final days, guided his own growth, and left a lasting imprint on everyone who encountered her. The CEO knew that these lessons would remain with him forever, inspiring him to lead with heart, act with kindness, and honor the quiet heroes who make the world a better place.